What's up guys, and welcome to another video from Code Review. So normally in any app we need to redirect the user to a web view, and that's what they called it in app browsing. So in Flutter we use web view, and that we can find it inside the pub spec pubdiff for Flutter, and then we search for web view. Normally we will choose the first one because it's more gets more installs and more downloads, more popular, and we'll see the implementation of this package. The problem is that this package doesn't provide an control about the page. It does have functions, but it doesn't have, let's say, the ability to buttons like this and to control the page. And that's what we will do. They will use the same package, and we will do a wrapper that controls the page, like buttons around the page, and that we can control the whole page. If you are new here, please support the channel by give it the thumbs up and sub, it will be gold. So we will start by creating new Flutter app usually, and that's what we will do in the beginning. We will remove inside the main Dart everything. So this is what we will do normally. So that's the component, or the let's say the widget that they use that is not useful. So we will use our widget. I will put material app as in the beginning. I will use navigation here, the navigation 1.0. The thing is that navigation 1.0 is a bit easier, and then it's just straightforward to the work. It's more better than using the navigation 2.0. And if you want to use it, please check my video about navigation 2.0 in one of the corners. So we will put as a home screen as the home screen that we will create later, and we will use the web view wrapper as web. So for the home screen we can use actually just a slash. We don't need to use a home because it's gonna be default, and the other one is our web view screen. And let's go and start building these screens. So we'll start by home screen. We will use the stateless widget, and we use the shortcut to create the new screen. And you see that we make sure that the new screen will be imported, and here we need to pass the context as a route. That's something I forgot to do. And then we will create another model. That's where our data will go. So in this model we will create like a news model, let's say, and then we will have some kind of properties like title, description, image, URL, and UUID. And these properties all they are all strings, so I need just to put them as one line. And in this case actually you can use fetching. So that's what I will do. So create a new constructor that will transform the data to properties inside the class. And for my case, I'm not gonna use it in here. I'm just I will create an static list, and that will be a couple of dummy data that we will use. And this news list, I will call it news list, and then we will I will copy it from my code. So this is our couple news list that will be passed to the as a news model to the home screen. This is what we will show in the beginning. So we'll make we will iterate inside the list view, and we will make sure that the news list will be imported, and then we will do and then we will create a list style, and then we will pass to the data to it, the item, and it will be in our data. So this is what we will use. So for now I will put the dense as true, and then pass the title as a text, and we say just item.title, and then we'll say also for description as a subtitle, and we will use the unpressed. So for now, for trailing, I don't know if you can use it, but this is depends to you. So this is something we just need to let the user know that it's in the URL, so that will be redirected to the outside, not outside, to the another page. And then we will use on tab, and here we will use navigation, and then we'll use push named, and here we will pass the context, the URL strings, and then we will pass the arguments to it. And this argument is very important because we need to pass the URL that we needed to another screen, and here we just use item.url. Now what we're going to do is we're implementing the web view wrapper. So normally in this screen we will use the same logic as in the home screen. To create a file called web view wrapper. I mean, the naming, it doesn't matter, you can call it whatever you want. And we will use the shortcut, create a dummy stateless widget, and then we change it to web view wrapper. So in this case I will convert it to stateful widget. So we will make some instance like a loading and web view controller. But I think we forgot to install the controller. Okay, so we put a web view Flutter, and then we use the latest version, and we'll make sure that the Flutter packages will get the package installed. And then we will use some we will assign inside the init state. We will use the assign for the loading, and also for what type of we need of the web browsing, but because apparently that the type of web browsing is different than dependent to the platform. So we will do double check. If the platform is Android, then we will pass the web view platform as a service, Android web view, and this is recommended by the package description. So they say that you have to put this one, and then to make sure that it will render dependently to the platform. And now you see that inside the build we have just no. So now we will go and then start building the app. So I'm not going to use a scaffold here. I will use a safe area, and you will see shortly why. But if you want to use a scaffold, also you can use it, but it's a bit lacking of the performance, or maybe the UX inside the app. Why? Because normally inside the app you don't you need to provide a user that this is a web view, so or maybe in-app browsing. This is a page, and it's different than the screen that we use it inside the app. So we need to differentiate between them. So that's why we don't need to use a scaffold. We use something else, and we will make it more controllable. That will give it a user that it's in web browsing and not another screen from the app. We will use some decoration here that for the container as a child, for safe area, and then we will pass some border radius that will make sure that the screen have some let's say have some alignment with the view that we have in the app. And we will pass the child as a stack. And here, if we use a stack, make sure that we use in material widget inside it, because it's very important here. And then we will pass some padding to this container. We just make sure that there is a space on the top and the screen. And also we make sure that this one is a web view, so the child will be web view. And here what we need to pass is actually we will pass some the important or maybe the required arguments is that the initial URL. And here we don't have URL for now, because the URL will be passed via the navigation, and we need to retrieve the URL here. So what we need to check is that we make sure that the arguments, it will be passed via the modal, and then we can check if the modal is the arguments inside the model has the parameters that we know, or maybe the arguments that we what we need. And here the arguments that will be sent, it's a map, so it's an object in JavaScript. So let's say it's a map, a string, and dynamic, and that's what we need to differentiate inside the app. That this one is, maybe you can actually make a model for it, and then we pass the model as here. But for this video, it's just one argument, so I don't need to pass the make a model. Down we can use the initial URL as URL and arguments URL, and we can actually go further and then make more arguments, and that's one of them is the debugging enable. That makes sure that we need to see what's happening in the debugging, and also when web view created, and that's function that will pass the event to the web view when you need to when the web view is created. And in type of the event, it will be web controller, and that's what we did in the beginning. We made a web view controller on the top of the screen, and that's what we need to pass it and then assign it to web view controller comes from the created. And now we can control everything whenever the web view is created. And if we go also and then make sure, I mean, for the sake of video also, we will say that whenever the web view is the page is started, so page is started loading, and then that will be pass also an event, and this event is just a string, so we don't need it, but we just we have to put this parameter. And in this case we need to use our loading, and we will make it as a true, and that's the case that we need to take the advantage of on page started, and then use it as a loading indicator. And it's gonna be the same that we will do on page finished, and that will be passed also, and then we assign the loading as false, and it will be easier for the user to follow what's happening in the page. And for there are more arguments. Maybe you can check in details in the package, but for now this will do our work. So, and here we will check if there's loading, then we can show something, and in this case we will use the positions, and then we will pass the child as the loading or the circular let's say circular indicator. And here we will use positions because we are in the stack, so we need to use position to align the widget inside it. And I will use a row here because I need to put some margin, or let's say I need to put some width and width for the both sides to pass it. And this is how our app looks like as a home screen. Then for now on I will might be speed up some process, because it's all about the Flutter and how to implement some widgets inside the Flutter. So that's why I need to mention this, that the speed up will goes for some videos, for some coming next videos. And you see that when we click on the loading on the app, it will pause the web page, and then you see the dark from the top and the bottom, and then that's what we need to do. That's the safe area with the container, and that's what we will implement. We will put some buttons here to control the page more. And but first one is we will use the main axis alignment. We will make sure that if there is no loading, so we will put some indicators down that will say that we need to indicate the page. So here we need to mention that we need to use and on a pressed we need to use the async process, because we need to check if the controller can go back, and that will return a future of boolean, and that's we can use the function inside the controller, and then we check if this can go back, and then we can navigate. So we just say sorry, we can just navigate by saying go back again, and that will be the same in the forward. So we will do also the same, because WebView controller has also a functionality to check if we can go forward and also go forward, and that's what we need. Here we will use also the same the controller, and then we just check the reload, the function that's inside the controller. And also it's a future, so we need to use an async here for on pressed. As you can see, we have created more duplicated codes by using the material, the positions, and that's what can be. This is just for the sake of the video, but this can be also refactored to use one widget. As a challenge of today, this will be your task to refactor these widgets and use the same logic that we have used by onPressed, or maybe by the positioning of the widget, of the elemental, let's say. And now let's test this out. So we will reload the app and we'll see how it works, and we need to make sure that everything is okay. The app is reload, we click on one, you see the loading, and then you see that the buttons, we can refresh, and we can let's say go to one of another pages, and then you see the refresh button, and then we can click on back, and then we can go back and go forward from now on, because we have 2 pages. And for the other button, that will work, and also for the share button, that we can use another button. This is depends to your requirement. And for now that I'm checking every news, so that's already correct. And that's it guys for this video. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Ciao.